flatline on the heart monitor wasn't nearly as devastating as seeing my wife's text while I lay in that hospital bed taking what I deserve. Don't call. As I stared at our drained bank account, something inside me, something far more dangerous than cardiac arrest, began to awaken. For 22 grueling years, I drove 18-wheelers across America's forgotten highways, my calloused hands gripping that steering wheel while my body slowly betrayed me. Mason Reynolds, that's what my license said, but some days I barely recognized the weathered face staring back from truck stop mirrors. I'd leave our modest two-story in Springfield at 4 a.m. on Mondays, Brittany sleeping form barely stirring as I kissed her goodbye. The smell of her perfume would linger on my clothes for the first 100 miles, a scent that used to bring comfort but had somehow turned hollow. Call me when you get to Denver, she'd say, but by year 15 of our marriage, those calls had become mechanical rituals. How's the weather? Traffic okay? Did you eat something besides diner food? The same questions, the same answers, with something vital missing between the lines. I still remember the day we met Brittany working the register at a roadside diner off in Minnesota. Her laugh had cut through the truck exhaust and grease-soaked air like sunlight. You look like you could use some real coffee, not that sludge they're serving, she said, sliding me a fresh cup. 3 months later, I proposed in that same booth. The early years were good, damn good. She'd sometimes ride with me during summer hauls, her feet on the dashboard, singing along to Springsteen as we crossed state lines under starlit skies. We talk about the future, about the family we'd have once I saved enough to start my own trucking business. But dreams have expiration dates that nobody warns you about. Mason, we need to replace the deck, she'd say. Or it was new kitchen cabinets. Or a vacation to Cancun because everyone at her book club had gone somewhere tropical. I'd nod, calculate the extra routes I'd need to run, and push my body a little harder. Meanwhile, something in Brittany's eyes had changed, a restlessness I couldn't fix with overtime or trinkets from roadside shops. Our conversations became transactions, our intimacy scheduled like oil changes. You're never here, Mason, became her battle cry, though the mortgage, car payments, and her shopping habits depended entirely on my absence. I kept a small notebook in my glove compartment, tracking the cities I'd visited without really seeing them. Boston, New Orleans, Seattle, Phoenix, just exit numbers and delivery schedules to me. Sometimes I'd pull over at scenic overlooks, not to admire the view, but to swallow the acid reflux that had become my constant companion. Tyler, my younger brother, would check in. You look like hell, Mace, he'd say during our monthly beers whenever I was home. When's the last time you had a physical? I'd laugh it off, tell him truckers don't have time for doctor's appointments. The chest pain started in Wyoming, just twinges at first, easily blamed on bad diner coffee. By Illinois, they become harder to ignore, but I had 3 more drops before I could head home. The load had to be delivered. The money had to be made. Brittany had texted about remodeling the master bathroom. That Thursday night, parked outside Omaha, I called home later than usual. Brittany answered, slightly breathless. Sorry, was in the shower, she said. How's the trip? Same as always, missing you. The words felt like stones in my mouth. Gregory from next door helped fix that leaky faucet today, she mentioned casually. Wouldn't take any money for it. Nice of him, I mumbled, the pain in my chest spreading down my left arm. Tell him I'll grab him a beer when I'm back. I never made it home that weekend. Instead, I woke up to fluorescent lights and the mechanical beeping that meant I was still alive barely. The doctor later told me I'd flatlined twice. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers, expecting worried messages from my wife of 15 years. Instead, I found her cold goodbye and the banking app showing our life savings had disappeared along with her. While I was lying in that sterile hospital room with tubes snaking from my arms, my phone buzzed with a bank notification. Confused and still foggy from medication, I thumbed through my banking app only to discover our joint account, all $61,000 of it had been drained to zero. My vision blurred, not from the painkillers, but from the shock of betrayal cutting deeper than any cardiac episode. A text from Brittany arrived moments later. I deserve this money after everything I've put up with. Don't try to find me. 22 years on the road. 15 years of marriage. And this was my reward, a digital goodbye while my heart monitor beat steadily beside me. Mr. Reynolds, you need to stay calm, the nurse warned, noticing my elevated heart rate. If only she knew it wasn't my damaged heart causing the spike, but the realization that my life partner had been planning this heist while I was literally dying. I called Brittany 13 times. Each attempt went straight to voicemail. Her cheerful greeting, "Hi, you've reached Brittany," now sounded like mockery echoing through my hospital room. My brother Tyler burst through the door later that evening, his face a storm of concern and rage. Jesus Christ, Mason, you look like hell, he said, pulling a chair close to my bed. She's gone, Ty, took everything. Tyler's jaw tightened. I know, I went by your house after I couldn't reach either of you. Her closet's empty, car's gone. I closed my eyes, remembering how many extra routes I'd driven to pay for that BMW she needed for her real estate career that never quite took off. There's something else, Tyler said, his voice dropping. Gregory next door, he's gone too. The leaky faucet. The breathless phone call. The casual mentions of his name over the past months. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. How long do you think? I couldn't finish the question. I asked around. Mrs. Dawkins across the street said she's seen his truck in your driveway overnight at least once a week since January. A year. They'd been planning this for a year while I hauled freight across the country, my body deteriorating with each mile. 3 days later, against medical advice, I checked myself out of the hospital. Tyler drove me to his place instead of the house I'd paid for with my sweat and shortened lifespan. As we passed through town, I spotted a for sale sign on Gregory's lawn. Convenient timing, I muttered. That night, while Tyler slept, I hobbled to his computer and began digging. I wasn't just angry, I was methodical. Years of mapping routes across America had taught me how to track and trace. If they thought my heart attack was their perfect opportunity, they had severely underestimated the man they tried to discard. Brittany had left a trail. Credit card charges in Tucson. A newly created email account that she'd accidentally linked to our shared cloud storage. Photos of them together dating back 14 months in our bed, on vacations I thought she'd taken with her book club. Then I found it a second bank account I never knew existed with $127,000. My name wasn't on it, but Gregory was listed as an authorized user. Mr. Mason Reynolds. The insurance investigator's voice pulled me from my dark thoughts the following morning. On looking into the claim filed just before your heart attack, it seems your wife increased your life insurance policy to $750,000 3 months ago. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just theft, it was something far more calculated. They hadn't just been waiting for me to leave, they'd been waiting for me to die. That afternoon, a text arrived from an unknown number. Mason, it's Gregory. There's been some guy hanging around your house the past few weeks. Just wanted to let you know. Hope you're feeling better. I stared at the message, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. They were creating a false trail, trying to direct suspicion elsewhere while covering their tracks. But this scheme had one fatal flaw. They thought I was too broken to fight back. Tyler, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in days, I need a lawyer, and then I need you to help me disappear for a while. My brother looked at me, understanding dawning in his eyes. You're not going after them yourself, are you? I shook my head, touching a fresh scar on my chest where surgeons had fought to restart my heart. No, I'm going to let the law destroy them, but first, we need to gather every piece of evidence before they realize I'm not lying down to die like they planned. The courtroom felt like a pressure cooker as I sat there, surgical scar still pink beneath my shirt collar, watching Brittany's polished mask finally begin to crack. For months, I'd been the invisible man, a ghost who'd slipped out of that hospital bed and into the shadows while she and Gregory paraded around with my money like they'd won some perverse lottery. Mr. Reynolds, Judge Harmon addressed me directly, his weathered face betraying the disgust he couldn't professionally voice. The court has reviewed the financial records submitted by your attorney. I felt Tyler's reassuring hand on my shoulder as we watched Brittany squirm in her designer outfit bought with my stolen savings while I was eating my brother's leftovers and sleeping on his couch. Your Honor, Brittany's attorney interjected. My client maintains that the funds were jointly earned and... Jointly earned? The words escaped my lips before I could stop them. I was lying in a hospital bed with tubes down my throat when she drained our accounts. The judge raised his hand to silence the murmurs rippling through the courtroom. I'm quite aware of the timeline, Mr. Reynolds. Mine is Courtney, a financial analyst who'd spent weeks combing through digital breadcrumbs, leaned forward and whispered, they are about to show the transfers. She doesn't know we found the second account. On the projection screen, bank statements appeared showing a systematic pattern of money moving from our joint accounts into a hidden $127,000 accumulated over 14 months while I was driving 18-wheelers across America's heartland. The color drained from Brittany's face when Gregory's name appeared as an authorized user. She whipped around, eyes searching for him in the gallery, but he was conspicuously absent just as he'd been when the subpoena started flying. Would the defense care to explain why the defendant's alleged friend has access to funds that were primarily earned by the plaintiff during his 22 years as a commercial driver? The judge asked, removing his glasses and pinching the bridge of his nose. Brittany's attorney shuffled papers, buying time he didn't have. Then came the recording, Gregory's voice crystal clear on my home security system that they didn't know I'd installed after my first suspicions. Once the insurance pays out, we'll be set $750,000 and he'll never know what hit him. Brittany's voice, the doctor said, his heart's like a ticking time bomb. We just need to wait. The courtroom erupted. I closed my eyes, flashing back to the sterile hospital room to the moment when my heart monitor had spiked not from cardiac distress but from a text message that had shattered my world. In that moment, I'd felt something die inside me that wasn't physical at all. Your Honor, my attorney stood. We have evidence that Mr. Comrade not only engaged in a relationship with Mrs. Reynolds, but actively participated in what amounts to insurance fraud and attempted exploitation of my client's medical condition. The judge's eyes narrowed as he reviewed the additional evidence. The life insurance policy Brittany had upgraded 3 months before my heart attack. The text messages planning their new life together, the real estate listings they'd been browsing in Tucson. Furthermore, my attorney continued, Mr. Conrad withdrew $90,000 in cashier's checks yesterday and has listed his property for immediate sale, a clear attempt to flee jurisdiction. I watched Brittany's shoulders collapse inward as she realized Gregory had abandoned her to face the music alone. The man who'd promised her everything had left her with nothing but consequences. In light of this evidence, Judge Harmon declared, voice cutting through the courtroom like a scalpel, I am issuing an immediate freeze on all assets associated with both defendants. Mr. Reynolds, while divorce proceedings continue, you are granted temporary possession of the marital home, vehicles, and access to 80% of the recovered funds. I didn't smile. I didn't shout in victory. I simply pressed my hand against my chest, feeling the steady rhythm of the heart they tried to exploit, the organ that should have killed me but instead had given me the strength to rebuild from their betrayal. As Brittany was led away, mascara tracking down her cheeks, she looked back at me one final time. I saw it then, the realization that her perfect crime had unraveled because she'd underestimated the dying man in that hospital bed. She'd forgotten that truck drivers learn to survive on America's most dangerous roads and the survival instinct doesn't disappear just because your heart skips a beat. Just as I thought I had the whole picture, Courtney slid another folder across the table. There is more, Uncle Mason, she whispered, her eyes darting toward Brittany. The judge flipped through the new documents, his expression hardening. Mr. Reynolds, are you aware of these life insurance modifications? I wasn't. My heart, the traitorous organ that had nearly killed me, skipped a beat when I saw the papers. Brittany had increased my policy from $250,000 to $750,000 just 6 weeks before my heart attack. That wasn't what made my blood run cold. Your Honor, my attorney said, we obtained Mr. Conrad's phone records through Discover. There are 17 calls to Dr. Peterson, Mr. Reynolds' cardiologist, in the month preceding his cardiac event. The courtroom erupted. Through the chaos, a memory crystallized Gregory at our kitchen table months earlier, introducing himself as having pharmaceutical connections when he learned about my heart condition. Order! The judge's gavel cracked like thunder. Continue, counselor. My attorney projected a toxicology report onto the screen. These are Mr. Reynolds' hospital lab results showing traces of a medication he was never prescribed, a beta blocker known to cause severe cardiac events in patients with his specific condition. I gripped the table to steady myself as the room tilted. Those pills Brittany had insisted were supplements recommended by her health coach. The bitter taste I'd complained about, her insistence that I take them before my long hauls. We've also recovered text messages between the defendants, my attorney continued. He tapped his tablet, and the messages appeared on screen. Gregory, did he take them this morning? Brittany, all 3. He's leaving for Chicago at 4. Gregory, perfect, middle of nowhere, no witnesses. Tyler's hand clamped on my shoulder as I swayed in my seat. They hadn't just robbed me, they tried to murder me. The truck accident outside of Omaha wasn't bad luck. It was carefully orchestrated homicide that failed when a passing paramedic happened to be first unseen. Brittany's face contorted in panic. He's lying. Gregory told me those were heart vitamins. The judge's voice cut through her protests. Mrs. Reynolds, I'm stopping these proceedings immediately. Bailiff, please take the defendant into custody. The evidence suggests we're no longer dealing with financial impropriety but attempted murder. As they led Brittany away in handcuffs, our eyes locked. In that moment, I saw not the woman I'd married but a stranger cold and calculating who had decided my life was worth less than the insurance payout. I never thought you'd wake up, she hissed as they pulled her past me. You weren't supposed to wake up. Those words echoed in my skull long after the courtroom emptied. The heart attack that I'd caused had actually saved me, forcing me into the hospital before their deadly cocktail could finish the job on a lonely stretch of highway where truck drivers regularly disappeared without witness. The judge's voice echoed through the courtroom like a final verdict on my old life, restitution in the amount of $612,000 to be paid to Mr. Reynolds, with all assets frozen pending full investigation into attempted murder charges. I felt nothing watching Brittany crumble, no satisfaction, no vindication. Just emptiness where 15 years of marriage had once lived. As the bailiff led her away, her mascara-streaked face turned toward her co-conspirator Gregory, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. The man who promised to take care of her was already cutting deals with the prosecutor, throwing her under the bus to save his own skin. You good? Tyler asked, his hand steady on my shoulder as we walked out. The September sun hit my face, my first taste of freedom since this nightmare began. Getting there, I answered. That night, I stood in what was once our bedroom, now mine alone by court order. Brittany's perfume still lingered like a ghost. I ran my fingers along the dresser where our wedding photo used to sit, the one she'd carefully removed when emptying our accounts, as if erasing our history could justify her betrayal. I remembered our 3rd anniversary. We parked my rig at a lookout point above Lake Michigan, watching sunrise paint the water gold. I'll always be your home base, she promised, laying her head on my chest. Your heart safe with me. The irony wasn't lost on me. 3 months after the trial, Gregory accepted a plea deal of 15 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Brittany got 22. 1 year for each year I'd spent on the road, killing myself to build the life she tried to steal. The prosecutor called it poetic justice. I called it closure. Tyler helped me pack up the house. "What are you gonna do with all this?" he asked, gesturing at the furniture that suddenly felt like museum pieces from someone else's life. "Sell it," I said without hesitation. "All of it." I kept only my dad's old fishing tackle and my mother's wedding ring, not Brittany's, which the police had found pawned 2 counties over. The real estate agent didn't blink when I listed the house at 30% below market value. "You sure about this?" she asked. "Never been more sure of anything," I replied. "It sold in 6 days. With the settlement money and house proceeds, I bought a cabin near Lake Superior, just 20 minutes from Tyler's family. My niece Courtney started community college nearby, and on Tuesday nights she'd bring her textbooks to my porch where we'd study together her business courses, my new hobby of astronomy. The night sky looks different when you're no longer driving beneath it. My cardiologist couldn't believe the improvement in my numbers. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," he said, lowering my medication dosage. "Your heart's making a remarkable recovery." I didn't tell him that sometimes healing comes from cutting out the poison, not adding more medicine. On the 1-year anniversary of the heart attack that saved my life, I received a letter from Brittany's attorney. She wanted to apologize to explain. I stood at the end of my dock, the letter dangling between my fingers as waves lapped against weathered wood. With methodical precision, I tore it into confetti and watched the pieces dance across the water's surface, carrying away the last remnants of her hold on me. Later that evening, I hosted my first dinner party. Tyler's family, 2 neighbors, and a woman named Elaine who owned the local bookstore. She'd lost her husband to cancer 3 years prior and understood the language of rebuilding. When she laughed, it didn't sound like Brittany's calculated chant but something authentic that reached her eyes. "To second chances," Tyler toasted, raising his glass. "And to trusting the right people," added. My heart, the stubborn muscle that refused to quit when everyone expected it to beat steadily in my chest. The scar down my sternum had faded to a thin white line, a roadmap leading from who I was to who I'd become. I ran my finger along it sometimes, a reminder that what was meant to end me had instead set me free. They say the best revenge is living well. But I discovered something better: living authentically. The money was nice, the justice sweeter, but the real victory was waking up each morning without deception coating my life like a toxic film. Brittany and Gregory had tried to bury me. They just never expected I'd learn how to grow. Sometimes what feels like your destruction becomes the foundation for your rebirth. That heart attack, the one they hoped would kill me, forced me to fight for myself in ways I never would have otherwise. The people who try to bury you don't realize you're a seed. In the quiet moments on my dock, watching eagles circle above the lake, I've come to understand something profound. The life you rebuild after betrayal grows stronger than the one that was stolen from you. Trust isn't just given in a marriage, it's earned every day with actions that speak volumes louder than whispered promises in the dark. My scars remain, a roadmap of where I've been. But they've healed into something resembling wisdom. And when I place my hand over my chest now, feeling that stubborn heart still beating beneath my fingers, I don't curse the pain that brought me here. I thank it for setting me free.